Happening right now on Sports Extra. The NFL draft is officially in the books, and the Falcons, they definitely made some noise. But General Manager Terry Fontenot, he's got no regrets.
Man, just telling you. I slept good last night.
Look, I think we all slept good, and Georgia fans slept good as well, since a dog is finally a Falcon after an early round. Plus, the Falcons made their biggest move in recent drafts, trading back up into the first round to bolster up that defense.
I was stoked. I was ready to work. I mean, it was a great opportunity for me, and like you said, there was this, that, and third, and I really didn't feed into it because it is what it is. But I'm just happy to be here.
Some people might use negative to fuel the fire. I feel like that was a super positive thing they did, and that fueled my fire. That put a lot of gasoline on there, made me want to go out here and play for this organization a lot harder and a lot better.
We love a motivated player in the NFL. What an exciting weekend. Oh, and in case you forgot, Landry Fields also fired this week. It is always busy here in Atlanta, and here to break it down, my friends are here. Sports Extra, it's now. Hey everybody, welcome into Sports Extra. Did you guys sleep? Because this has been a crazy week, a hectic draft weekend to say the least. I made it up to Green Bay and back, and according to the sounds of my Twitter mentions, Falcons fans, I think they're pretty happy with what went down in Wisconsin. Let's get right into it, and let me direct your attention to this. 5 total picks for the Falcons, 4 of them defensive players, including 2 first-rounders. And finally, yes, finally, a Georgia Bulldog in the first round for the Falcons. After night 1, General Manager Terry Fontenot pretty happy with some of the most aggressive moves he's made in the draft so far.
Look, we came in this draft and wanted to make an impact on the team, and we talked about it. We have to take impact players off the board regardless of where they are, and to have impact defensive players there, it's exciting. That's really exciting, and so a lot of work went into this, and it was a good night.
Look, it's been a while since we've said really exciting after a draft by the Falcons, so I think we're all thrilled to have this episode happen right now. Just to my right, Caleb Johnson from 92.9 The Game. Sorry I didn't bring you any cheese curds, but you're dressed accordingly for a very busy show.
I think some people might look at it as I'm dressed for a funeral, right. But I would like to say I'm dressed for the NFC South's funeral after what the Falcons did this weekend, because I'm feeling really good about this Falcons team.
You're pretty positive, and I think a guy over there on my far side, my co-host on Locked On and the Locked On extraordinaire Jarvis Davis, you're here. I'd like to think the smile means you're feeling pretty good.
Absolutely. They were intentional about getting better with the pass rush. You got to be intentional if you want to be good in life. You want to have success in life. And I think the Falcons did that.
Okay, Jarvis, I'm going to stick with you. Intentionality is what the Falcons were going for in this draft. When you only have 5 picks, you're pretty limited, which means you got to get it right. And I felt like they did. What did you think the Falcons accomplished this weekend?
I was so excited when you talk about what Jalen Walker brings to the table. And I feel like I am expecting this offense to do really well. We talked about it on our podcast and saying, hey, 26 points, 27 points. I feel like the Falcons will be in good shape offensively. All they have to do is be able to sustain those leads. Yeah. You sustain leads by getting to the opposing quarterback and putting them on the ground. So especially when they're behind. And I think we've seen the recipe for success when you talk about teams playing from behind and being able to put up a lot of points. And that's back in 2016. So if they can they seem like they have gotten to that formula, so we'll see if it works out for them.
And you mentioned Jalen Walker. What a dream scenario, Caleb, for the Falcons. They even admitted we didn't believe that he would be there at 15. Who would think that a player like this, who's so versatile, which that just makes Jeff Ulbrich kind of salivate, right? He's been talking about he wants versatile defensive players. Jalen Walker at 15, what did you think about that pick?
I mean, I kind of called my shot on this show back at the beginning of March when I said, do the easy thing, draft the Georgia guy. But I think out of, landing with Jalen Walker, someone who I mentioned is a leader of men, which is important as Grady Jarrett has gone out the door, and you're going to be looking for that next man up kind of guy in that aspect. But then also, you mentioned versatility. That's certainly going to be something that you get with Jalen Walker, where you can put him in so many different positions and just let him hunt. And that's something that I feel like the Falcons have been missing for so long. So addressing a need while going best player available, it's the best of both worlds.
Dude oozes confidence, and for good reason. He can back it up. And you mentioned he's such a leader. He can truly change the way that a locker room is, which I think the Falcons probably need out of a rookie as well. And Jarvis, when you look at their next pick in the first round, nobody saw this coming. We didn't think that Terry Fontenot would move back up into the first round, but he did. They called their buddies at the Rams, or I guess Raheem Morris's buddies at the Rams. They gave up a future first rounder for this next year in 2026, but James Pierce Jr., a defensive end out of Tennessee, guy's long, he's quick, fastest defensive end at the combine. How did you perceive this move?
I thought it was interesting. I think that, I wasn't that high on James Pierce, let me just say that.
Sure.
But I do appreciate the conviction that they had about a player, because my whole thing is, if you're going, like you said, if you're going to succeed, you gotta be able to understand what you want and what you need to accomplish. They said, hey, we need to get this pass rush correct. So yeah, we didn't see Jalen Walker fall into us. Oh yeah, we're gonna snatch him up. Oh yeah, the guy that we probably would have drafted if Jalen Walker wasn't there. Yeah, we're gonna get him too. We're gonna get James Pierce too. So I appreciate the intentionality. I appreciate the conviction. So yeah, let's see if it works out.
And Maria, the other part of this too that I just wanted to make mention of is, like, they didn't trade they didn't give away a first round pick. They're essentially mortgaging on, we want our pick this year, and then we'll let the Rams take our first round pick next year. Like, they're not completely giving it up. So I feel like some fans maybe kind of got lost in the, oh no, we gave up a first for this guy. It's like, no. You just you cashed your check a little bit early. You're going to reap those benefits sooner rather than later.
And they're gambling on him a little bit, which is okay, because it's a draft pick, and that way it is cheap labor at this point. You hope that he plays into a second contract, but this is what you want out of your first rounders. You want to put the cards on the table for them and say, hey, come start for us and show us what you can do. Make your money that way. Let's talk about Xavier Watts, because nobody believed that he was going to be available in the third round. In fact, Jeff Ulbrich said that too. He said, I was actually saying you need to trade up and go get this guy. Can't believe he's still available there. A safety that has 13 interceptions over the last 2 years. Jarvis, what do you like about Xavier and the way he could fit maybe in this defense?
Go back to what I said about being able to sustain leads with your offense, right? You marry a guy that can give the offense extra possessions to this defense, that's nothing but good thing can happen for you as you try to go, as your goal is to get to the playoffs. The one thing I like about Watts is when he's coming down in that alley, so to speak, when that running back breaks outside and get outside the hash marks, he's coming down with intent to take down. And I love that about him.
Ball hawk energy for sure, yeah.
The other thing I like about Xavier Watts is that not only, so people mentioned the 13 interceptions that he did, but sometimes that means a guy risks, and going for the big play. He gave up 0 touchdowns this past season. So he takes the risk, but he's also measured enough that he's not giving up the big play.
That's a really good point. And in the call to Xavier Watts, they said, go get the football. That's what we want you to do here. I think he's such a steal. I think he's going to be amazing. Let's end with the final 2 picks that Atlanta ran it out with. We got Billy Bowman Jr., who's a safety, but Jeff Ulbrich said he wants him to be more of a nickel. And then, of course, Jack Nelson, a hog molly, an offensive tackle from Oklahoma. You know what a hog molly is, Jarvis?
Yes, I know exactly what a hog molly is. They probably looked at me as a hog molly, but I said, I'm playing defense. I'm forget about the offensive line stuff.
You did know exactly what it is.
I'm clueless, guys. What are we talking about?
Hilarious. Hog molly. That's exactly what Jack Nelson is. Those final 2 picks for Atlanta, it rounds out a very impressive draft class, I would say. They filled that need, a swing tackle, and then you also get another defensive guy. Jarvis, how would you assess those final 2 picks that they rounded up this group with?
I say that they are getting a need, right? Filling the need, because that nickel spot, I feel like it's going to be a lot of competition there.
Yeah,
because you talk about with bringing D Alford back, and then you bring in Clark Phillips as well. You moving him down inside, so there's going to be a lot of competition there. So let the cream of the crop rise, baby. So that's what I love. I love competition. So, and then with the offensive lineman piece, you got Caleb McGarrett going into his last year of his contract. So are you going to re-sign him? Can Jack Nelson show you enough to be able to get into that starting conversation? So yeah, that's it. They did the right thing.
All right, I think it's going to be a really good draft class, but of course time will tell. And look, we've been talking for months about how defense had to be the emphasis and the focus by the Falcons this draft. They accomplished that, and they also got the stamp of approval from one of the best to ever do it. Falcons great, John Abraham.
Hi, Maria Martin called me this morning and asked me to say how did I feel about the Atlanta Falcons draft. But first of all, I think this is one of the best drafts they may ever have. Going defensive first, this definitely shows that we hear you, fans. Like fans, we hear you. We hear you talking about how John Abraham was the last pass rusher we had. We understand that. We're going to get Jalen Walker. We're going to get James Pierce Jr. and Xavier Watts and Bowman Jr., respectively, as safeties coming in third and fourth round is a great pick. Jack Nelson to fill in a little offensive work, but I think they signed a couple of guys also. But I think as you look in the background, you can kind of see what we have here. But I definitely think it was a great draft. I think it was an A-plus draft. I think in a few years we're going to be happy about what happened. And congratulations to the Falcons organization. I think this was one of the best drafts ever.
One of the best pass rushers to ever wear a Falcons uniform. Abe, we appreciate you as always. Good friend of the show and a good friend of mine. He gives them an A+. Let's go real quick here. Jarvis, your grade for the Falcons draft class.
A for being intentional, and A for filling needs, and A for getting high-level talent to fill those spots that you need to have production from in 2025.
I love it. Caleb, quick from you.
Absolutely an A. I mean, they took risk. Not only taking best player available when that turns into a position of need, but then going back up. So you get the guy who is versatile, and then you get the guy who is, hey, go run and get the ball. I think it's an absolute A all around.
I think this was a slam dunk. I also give them an A. Maybe not an A+ because there's always room for improvement, but they filled all of the needs. And I do believe that this class is going to show you that Terry Fontenot talking about this for months. Defense. It'll pay off and in the best way. All right, guys, coming up, maybe the biggest story from the draft was how late Shedeur Sanders was drafted. Well, now we have a little bit more insight into that prank call that had Sanders thinking he was going to New Orleans. More on that after the break. Switching gears to something we didn't expect to be talking about. I'm sure you saw the shocking video over the weekend of Shedeur Sanders being prank called thinking that he was getting drafted. It actually turns out that one of the kids involved was none other than the son of Falcons defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich, and the Falcons confirming today that Jax Ulbrich came across the contact information on his father's unlocked iPad. Jeff did not know about any of this until the prank call came to light, and the Falcons have apologized to Shedeur and his family. The Falcons also went on to say, "We have been in contact with the NFL and will continue to cooperate fully with any inquiries we may receive from the NFL League office. We are thoroughly reviewing all protocols and updating if necessary to help prevent an incident like this from happening again." Jax released an apology on Instagram as well. He says he called Shedeur on Sunday to apologize. Jax also says what he did was, quote, completely inexcusable, embarrassing, and shameful. He said he's sorry he took away from his moment and that it was selfish and childish. Sanders was eventually drafted by the Browns in the 5th round on Saturday. And just in case you guys were wondering, the Falcons are not scheduled to face the Browns this season. Really difficult and hard to comprehend situation that we have unfolding here. No, Shedeur was not the first guy to ever be prank called, Caleb, but when you think about this in its totality, what comes to mind about all of these events that played out?
It's just incredibly dumb. And hey, maybe when you're offering an apology, get the guy's name spelled correctly. Like, I feel like in this situation, you're never too old to get the belt, because this is just incredibly dumb, and it makes the Falcons look bad in all of this. And that's, of course, what we don't want to have happen, is this organization get embarrassed time and time again, whether, go back to Calvin Ridley and his mistakes. Like, this is just another thing of, okay, the football gods couldn't let us enjoy a nice draft weekend where the Falcons made some good decisions, and you've got to answer for this stupidity. And maybe Jeff Ulbrich lock the iPad next time, I guess. Like, that's just, it's all weird.
Yeah, it's all weird and it's all unfortunate, and I can't even imagine a world where he would ever think that something like that would be okay.
In his own house.
In his own house. I'm not talking about Jeff really. I'm talking about Jax, because this is insane to me that kids believe that doing that to another kid, maybe in your future you hope to get drafted and put yourself in those shoes, you would never want somebody to do that. It is his moment, and everything is being streamed too, which makes it even worse for Shedeur. And Shedeur Sanders also did take quite the tumble down the draft boards. Jarvis, we saw that he was at some point weeks ago projected to be the #1 overall pick, and then that turned into a 5th rounder. However, I believe he wins in this scenario because he actually has a chance to win that job there in Cleveland. But why do you think he tumbled as far as he did?
I think there are several different factors that's the reason why he failed like this. But I think one of them is that I think he was made an example out of, if you want to look at it from that standpoint, because it's just the type of guy he is, the personality that he has, and I think that teams don't necessarily like guys that have that type of mindset coming into the league. So I feel like there was a little lesson or message being sent here. And I think it was heard, because I think Shedeur isn't like his daddy, right? He's like his father, but he's not like his father.
Yeah.
I think he understands. He's a genuine person. From the people that I know that know him and have interacted with him, they had said nothing but good things about this young man. So I think that this is a message, and I think it'll be heard, because I feel like Shedeur is going to have some success in Cleveland, because that quarterback room is not competitive, in my humble opinion.
Use it as fuel. Use it as fire. Sure. He has an opportunity to respond to the NFL by saying, look, I can push through this adversity and win the job in Cleveland. Now, there's a lot of Georgia Bulldogs winning. 13 of them were drafted, one in every single round of the NFL draft, including Malachi Starks, who went to the Ravens in the first round. I talked to him up in Green Bay. Jefferson High School to the University of Georgia, now to the Baltimore Ravens. It's been a long journey, one that you've worked for a really long time. When you think about your journey, what comes to mind when you hear your name come off the board?
A kid from Jefferson, Georgia, nowhere, a nobody from nowhere. And just being able to have that work ethic that I learned from my parents at an early age and all the adversity that we went through. Sometimes you don't really know, while God's doing things, and sometimes you may never know. But He already has a story written for me, and this was part of the process, and I just got to have faith in that. And I think that's what I've been doing through my journey, and I'm going to continue to do it.
Malachi, you're a smart football player. You've always prided yourself on being a high IQ guy. How can that translate in the NFL for you?
A lot. I think the NFL is, it's more IQ than college is. Just the ability to be able to have that IQ that I've learned, and also learn more, like from the guys in the room, and the guys on the opposite side of the ball too. Just be able to come in and just be a sponge to some elite guys who've been doing it for a long time with a winning culture. I mean, I'm excited.
Oh, that first answer makes me emotional. Jefferson star, and we're so excited to see Malachi do great things. And our good friend of the show, Chase Lane, he signed an undrafted free agent deal with the New York Giants. We're wishing him the best of luck. All right, guys, coming up, we didn't see this one coming for sure. Landry Fields out as the Hawks general manager. What exactly does this mean for this franchise moving forward? We'll discuss next. So the Atlanta Hawks making the surprising announcement that they fired their general manager, Landry Fields, after 3 seasons with the franchise. A move that perhaps nobody saw coming, Caleb. What was your initial reaction to this, and where does the franchise go from here?
I'll say the first thought that I had was, I just talked to the man on Saturday. What happened since that time? And I think the Hawks found themselves in a position where clearly they didn't think that Landry Fields was the guy orchestrating the moves over these last, over the last year, I would say, ever since they brought in Ansi Salah, because Salah's the guy they decided to keep around. They wanted someone more serious in that room, and so they're, getting Sportsology to go out and find them a president of basketball operations. It's a move that I did not see this coming, but clearly they think this franchise needs a new voice in that room to take them in a more serious direction and to capitalize on these young pieces they have. They feel like they cannot get this wrong right now.
That's what's so puzzling to me. There are young pieces, and they seem to be going in the right direction, and then poof, Landry Fields is out. It's a cruel business, no matter what you're dealing with in professional sports, Jarvis. But when you hear that Landry Fields gets fired, what's your thought?
I wasn't surprised, because when you think about how he was brought in and not really being the guy that made all the decisions, and then the core of this team was from the previous regime as far as Travis Slank. Now, yeah, made some good decisions as far as drafting Zachary Reese-Shea. I give him credit for that. And made some other moves that kind of gave you some hope that he can get it right. But I just
Dyson Daniels coming here.
Dyson Daniels, that was an amazing trade. Absolutely, getting you some first round picks back. I get that. I understand that. But overall, I feel it boils down to that the Tony Ressler, all those people in that front office, and saying, hey, we don't trust you to get this right, to get where we want to be. And if they want to be in the playoffs, they got to have a person that has experience in team building and understanding how to work through these aprons and everything, because every team in the NBA is scared of those aprons and paying all that extra money. So it's a new world today in the NBA with this new CBA agreement. So yeah, they're gonna have to get it correct.
Yeah, Landry was young, he was up and coming, and I thought a lot of people around the league really enjoyed Landry. So I thought it was really shocking quick.
I think they enjoyed him, but I don't know that they respected him, and I think respect is a big part of why this decision gets made.
Yeah, you got to gain it over time too. They didn't really give him the luxury of time, which nobody really gets in professional sports. And Spencer Strider doesn't either, apparently, when it comes to starting in the big league club again. He waited a whole year, you guys, to go back to pitch in Toronto, and then what does he do? An accident out of nowhere. He strained his right hamstring playing catch, and now he's on the 15-day IL. So Jarvis, we'll start with you very quick. What happens when Strider's not a part of this rotation?
You don't have your ace, period, because you had the luxury of Chris Sale being out of sight, out of mind last year and winning the Cy Young. Of course, you wouldn't expect that this year, because look at what's going on. He's kind of fell back to the means, right, of what we expected out of Chris Sale when they brought him in. So yeah, you lose your ace and you just kind of flailing around a little bit until he comes back, and hopefully when he comes back, he can remain healthy. Yeah, it's just a lot going on with his team, and it seems like they just can't get it right when it comes to health status.
One step forward, two steps back is the story of the Braves so far this season. All right, guys, we'll wrap up with Maria's Minute after the break. For tonight's Maria's Minute, I want to make one thing very clear. The city of Atlanta should absolutely host the NFL draft. Look, I've been to 3 consecutive drafts now, Kansas City, Detroit, and Green Bay, and every single time I go, I think to myself, why can't Atlanta do this? We're a city that constantly proves that we can host the big events, and well, you could put it in Centennial Olympic Park, and the amount of artists, actors, influential figures, and celebrities, I mean, my goodness. Clearly, the NFL thinks we're doing something right, by the way, since we're getting a Super Bowl again. And since the NFL draft left New York in 2015, there have been 9 different cities featured, 10 next year with Pittsburgh. Atlanta's culture and culinary scene are enough, in my opinion, to make it make sense, but the history of our great city would also be displayed so well. Oh, and before you tell me that the host city should have a Super Bowl win, Nashville, they've never hosted a Lombardi Trophy either. All right, guys, thanks for watching Sports Extra each and every Sunday. Remember, the Dodgers are in town this week. Have a great week. I'll see you next Sunday.